Chapter 2404, Seriously Wounded Bing Yoon. Published by Divine Tao Library. Translator, Salavan and Godbrandy. Translation checker, Pew Pew Laser Gun. Editor and proofreader, Leo of Zion Mountain and Dale Ligerkeys. As the ship kept moving at a fast pace alongside the sea surface, Lu Xianyun and the others stood on the deck, looking into the distance with worried expressions. Suddenly, Ling Yin-chin saw something and pointed in a certain direction. There's someone over there. Hearing this, Lu Xianyun, Fan Xin, and the others steadied themselves and also looked in that direction. Sure enough, there was a beam of light over there, and it was moving towards them. Prepare for the worst. Be ready to fight, Ling Yin-chin shouted. After her order, everyone focused and started to circulate their source qi. If the one coming over was Yang Kai, it would be perfect, but if it was Pan Guang, they'd have to fight with everything they had. Soon, the beam of light was close enough for them to see clearly, and Lu Xian exclaimed happily, "It's senior brother. It's senior brother." When she saw that the one amidst the light was Yang Kai, she felt as if a huge stone was lifted off her chest. As soon as Yang Kai landed on the deck, everyone hurried to greet him, their expressions joyful. Lu Xianyun sized him up from head to toe, afraid that he might be hurt. At first glance, Yang Kai didn't seem to be injured. In fact, he was glowing with health and vigor, which made everyone feel slightly at a loss. Earlier, he'd stayed behind to fight Pan Guang, who was an Emperor Realm Master. Even if he managed to escape, his condition shouldn't be this good, right? What about Pan Guang? Ling Yin-chin asked in confusion. At the same time, she glanced in the direction Yang Kai had come from, afraid that Pan Guang would come after them again. Yang Kai grinned, "Don't worry. He's dead." Dead? Ling Yin-chin opened her eyes wide as she blurted out, "How did he die?" Then, she realized that was a silly question. Yang Kai had stayed behind to fight Pan Guang. Since he was here, and Pan Guang was not, it was pretty obvious what had happened. Yang Kai had killed him. As she came to this conclusion, she was thoroughly shocked. Although she'd previously seen Yang Kai kill other cultivators in the Dao Source realm very easily, she did not expect that he could also kill someone in the Emperor realm. What kind of heaven-defying secret art or secret technique was he cultivating? What kind of artifact did he have that allowed him to accomplish such a thing? Yang Kai explained, that guy was already seriously injured and far from his peak condition. He overestimated himself and died as a result. Hearing his explanation, Ling Yin-chin heaved a sigh of relief. It turned out that Pan Guang was already injured. This made much more sense because Yang Kai slaying an Emperor Realm Master in peak condition was simply too strange. Still, she had no choice but to acknowledge Yang Kai's incredible strength. An injured Emperor Realm Master was still an Emperor Realm Master. As the saying went, a starved camel was still bigger than a horse. The fact that Yang Kai managed to kill Pan Guang made him the greatest Dao Source realm cultivator she had ever seen. Alchemist Yang, what about my honored master? Fan Xin asked, filled with worry. Do you know what has happened on her side? Yang Kai glanced at Fan Xin and tried to console her. You don't need to worry about Senior Bing Yoon, she will be fine. Let's continue with our journey. Senior Bing Yoon will catch up with us when she's finished with her business. Seeing him so confident, Fan Xin and the other disciples of Ice Heart Pavilion calmed down. They now felt that their honored master would be able to deal with Qi Ri without too many problems. Everyone returned to the cabin, and the trip continued. The next few days passed peacefully, and nothing major happened. They did encounter some sea beasts with poor judgment, but with Yang Kai's help, these beasts were easily dispatched. At this time, they were very far from Clear Sky Island, already in the depths of the solitary void sea. Yet, even after all this time, Bing Yoon was nowhere to be seen. Fan Xin and the others became anxious once again, wondering what might have happened to their honored master. Yang Kai was also puzzled. Bing Yoon had recovered to her peak, and she had several high-rank 100 revolutions Emperor Yuan pills he'd refined for her, so it should be impossible for her to lose to Qi Ri. He thought that Bing Yoon would make Qi Ri retreat fairly quickly, and then converge with him, but things didn't seem to be going according to his predictions. Qi Ri turned out to be tougher than he'd expected. Yang Kai already knew the location of the exit to this sealed world thanks to Bing Yoon. Therefore, even if the latter didn't return, he could leave this place with the others. However, Bing Yoon was the ancestral founder of Ice Heart Valley, and they came from the same star field, so there was a certain amount of fate between him, and Yang Kai didn't want to leave her behind if possible. He hoped to return to the star boundary together with her. These past few days, he'd been standing on the deck both to guard against the sea beast's surprise attacks and to spot Bing Yun at the quickest time. But after 5 days, Yang Kai still hadn't caught sight of her. Later on the 5th day, he was standing on the deck and looking into the distance when Fan Xin rushed out of the cabin. Alchemist Yang. What's the matter? Seeing her worried expression, Yang Kai was startled. He didn't know what might have caused her to be this flustered. Fan Xin said in a hurry, Honored Master sent a distress signal. She's in trouble. She then gave a communication artifact to Yang Kai. Yang Kai's expression changed as he grabbed the artifact and swept it with his divine sense. After confirming the information Fan Xin gave him, he turned around and flew out. I'll go meet her. Space principles fluctuated and Yang Kai's body quickly teleported away. Fan Xin wanted to go with him, but Yang Kai was gone before she could even open her mouth to speak. 3,000 kilometers away from the ship, a dim beam of light was flying over the sea. The light was flickering, as if it could go out at any moment. Shrouded in this light was the silhouette of a young woman. It was none other than Bing Yun. At this time, she looked quite pitiful, her pure white clothes dyed red with blood, and her face was as pale as a sheet of paper. The qi in her body was flowing chaotically. She was clearly a lamp that was running out of oil. A third-order Emperor Realm Master like her would very rarely encounter such a dangerous situation. In fact, she'd never been injured so heavily ever since reaching the Emperor Realm. As she was in the middle of the sea, there was no place where she could stop to rest. The sea beasts below had even been attracted by the smell of blood and were chasing after her relentlessly. As time passed by, more and more sea beasts gathered. Bing Yun tried to hold on and pushed herself to move forward, but when she noticed that she was reaching her limit, she sent a distress signal to her disciples. As the last wisp of energy left her body, Bing Yun gazed into the distance, her heart filled with desolation. After leaving Heng Luo star field and arriving in the star boundary, she had cultivated diligently, eventually reaching the third-order Emperor realm, but now it seemed she was going to become food for the fishes. Dying like this was truly unsightly. But even at this critical moment, she hadn't lost her calm and wasn't flustered in the slightest. It was as if what she was facing wasn't death but the journey of life. The flickering light around her finally died out and Bing Yun no longer had the strength to move forward, her body gently swaying as it fell towards the sea head first. Down below, the sea beasts that had been chasing after her all this time noticed their prey's condition and started to seethe with enthusiasm, opening their huge mouths and waiting for their meal to fall down. Just as Bing Yun was about to fall into the jaws of a sea beast, a figure appeared beside her, catching her and flying away. Yang Kai needed but a glance to see that Bing Yun was in terrible shape. Whatever part of her body he touched was ice cold and soaked with blood. He frowned. How is this possible? He didn't expect that Bing Yun would end up in such a state after her fight with Qi Ri. He wasn't sure if Qi Ri was dead or alive, but if Bing Yun was reduced to such a state, Qi Ri couldn't possibly have fared any better. Even if he was alive, he shouldn't have the strength to pursue them. While in Yang Kai's arms, Bing Yun weakly opened her eyes and glanced at him. She seemed to have realized that Yang Kai had saved her and shot him a grateful look while saying weakly, I want to treat my wounds. Bring me back with you. Her voice was extremely weak, and Yang Kai wouldn't have heard her if they weren't so close. Senior, don't worry, just focus on recovering. Yang Kai nodded, his expression serious. Then, he noticed that Bing Yun had closed her beautiful eyes and fallen unconscious. He frowned and headed in the ship's direction, reaching it a few minutes later. Fan Xin and the others had been waiting on the deck, filled with worry. When they saw the unconscious Bing Yun in Yang Kai's arms, they fell into a panic. Yang hurried to speak, Senior's life isn't in danger, she's just very weak. I gave her some pills to treat her wounds already. Junior sister Fan, bring Senior to the cabin and take care of her. Yes. Fan Xin didn't offer any objections or ask any questions. At this time, she was ready to follow his every order. After carefully taking Bing Yun from Yang Kai's arms, she hurried to bring her to the cabin with the other disciples of Ice Heart Pavilion. When they left, Ling Yin Chin stepped forward and asked, what about Qi Ri? Do you know his current situation? Yang Kai shook his head, I didn't see him, but if Senior Bing Yun was reduced to this state, Qi Ri isn't going to be in better shape. Don't worry, he won't be able to chase after us. Hearing this, Ling Yin Chin heaved a sigh of relief. If Qi Ri were to come after them, none of the people aboard would be able to stop him. Even if Yang Kai had killed Pang Guang, he wouldn't stand a chance against Qi Ri. After all, Qi Ri was a third-order Emperor Realm Master. The ship continued its journey. Due to Bing Yun being seriously wounded, everyone was in low spirits. The disciples of Ice Heart Pavilion didn't leave the ship's cabin for the next few days as they were busy tending to Bing Yun. Yang Kai didn't go to disturb them as Bing Yun's recovery was likely at a critical moment. As she was a Third Order Emperor Realm Master, she definitely had some profound methods to treat her wounds. There was no need for him to worry.